All right, hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to the WTCF podcast. It's Charlie here, hanging out at the house, or am I? And just want to go ahead and talk about the intention from the last week and see if it's something that kind of can help you get through your week. The intention works as this: it's hard to defeat someone who consistently shows up. Now, the idea behind it is that every time that we grant ourselves an opportunity to challenge ourselves, to change into something new, we get a little bit better at it. So it's highly recommended for the things that you're really like scared to go ahead and start is to just get started because then you can consistently build upon that one. So the idea would work thusly. There's a story around a penny a day doubled, eventually being more money than like $5 million. So it's like in a month, would you rather have $5 million or a penny a day doubled? And when you go ahead and double that penny every single day, at first it doesn't look like it's a whole lot. And suddenly you're like, oh well, I'm only at 2 cents on the next day and 4 cents and 8 cents. But every time that we consistently go back, we get a little bit further than we did on the last one. And that's what I'm getting at is finding this consistency. Um, the book Atomic Habits, which is something that I quote and think about all the time from James Clear, really stipulates that getting 1% better. So again, there's the cent. The 1% better every single day does not make you 365% better at the end of the year. It actually makes you 38 times better. So it's 37.77 repeating. But eventually it's like 38 times better. So being consistent and showing up on a regular basis can go ahead and get you a lot further than you expect. Another good story that I like to use as I kind of think about this one is the stories around skydiving. I've been telling that story a lot in this last week. That if you went skydiving once, it's probably quite an experience, right? It's probably really scary. There's probably a lot to be learned from it. But if you went ahead and skydove 1,000 times, suddenly that's not going to feel as intimidating, challenging as it once was because you've already been able to see so much more and experience so much more. So again, by being consistent, we grant ourselves this really good opportunity to kind of continuously grow and develop. So I like to think of it also as this. Um, a lot of people will go ahead and say, I want to start a fitness journey, but I don't have the motivation to go do it. And I will tell many people, and again, if this is kind of redundant, and I'm saying this for the millionth time to you, and you've heard this so many times over, motivation is basically like a bad significant other. When things are good, they're great. But when things are bad, they're not there for you. And the idea would be is to start to recognize and develop some discipline. And you're like, well, I can't wake up early. Every day done for another minute earlier, right? So if you're waking up at 6 a.m. and you're not going to work until 8, maybe you do have a little bit of time depending on your commute. Or what if you try to wake up at 5:45 and give yourself 15 minutes to move around? So I've seen a lot of people go through some success for that, and also would highly recommend the 5 a.m. club if you're having trouble waking up really, really early and checking out the studio at that time. So again, it could be really, really tough to wake up early and do that work. But I've been waking up at 4 a.m. for probably about 5, 6 years now. I still don't like it. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say like, oh man, waking up early is so rewarding. I don't want to do it, but I know that I need to do it. The idea of building consistency and building discipline is whether it be rain or shine, you are going to execute the things that you told yourself you're going to do. So if you want to go ahead and say, you know what, the weather's getting nicer, I want to be a runner, you have to get started. So for the last 2, 3 days, I've actually been running just because I want to go ahead and get those things started. I wanted to make it really, really easy. And I went for my first run and I got 2 miles and I felt great. And then I ran just the other night and I got 2.5 miles and it felt great. So tonight I'm going to go ahead and try again and just kind of see how it feels to get about 2 miles, maybe 3 miles in, and just make sure that I can build some consistency with it. This is the exact same kind of programming that I did last year for myself. So if people are kind of curious about how I split up my workouts for the year, basically from now until it gets really hot outside, I become a runner. I run, I still train. I kind of alter my training a little bit. I know for a fact that things like my squat and my deadlift are not going to PR any further. They're not going to go up. So I'm just looking to maintain that. I get a lot more leg recovery. I work on a lot more like plyometrics, and other things just to make sure my legs are functioning really well. Tibialis raises come back in for very prominent sections of it. And then I kind of do a little bit more push pull kind of days for my upper body. Basically saying that I'm going to go chest, shoulders, triceps, and then back, biceps, and then whatever else on my back, shoulders, core, other things that I can go ahead and add into those ones. So every single time that I've come into this, this is now, I believe, my third year of trying to go through this. In the past, I made it to 10 miles. I did that for 2 years in a row. And basically both years at the end of it, so basically up and through the summer, I'll go ahead and run. Once it gets too hot, I'll start to back off of that one. I'll change up my training. Maybe I'll work on something brand new. 2 years ago, I was working on things like jump rope, or I might just find something really fun to do for different cardio sake, or maybe I run more. And then basically, I will alter my training a little bit so I can get into some good like bodybuilding work through the late summer. And then at the end of the year, the goal is to bulk, right? Because I know I'm going to be around a lot of food at the end of the year. So it's worked out for the last couple of years. And I just want to make sure that I stay nice and consistent with that. So when we go ahead and really understand that our consistent behaviors become who we are, go again, my thoughts become my actions become my behaviors, and my behaviors become my habits. So if I want to go ahead and tell myself that I'm something, or whatever noun, verb you want to go ahead and use to define yourself, I guess it would be a noun. Any noun to define yourself, you need to start working on those things, and you probably should start now. This is your call to go ahead and start it. And again, we start by setting clear goals, making sure that we have something that we can measure to. I usually don't like to measure to the scale, or I just actually don't like to measure to the scale. I like it as an additional indicator. It's a good additional indicator, but I don't think my weight is basically any relationship to my value. So again, if I'm training really hard and my weight goes up and I wanted my weight go down, that does not make me think less of myself. It's just, okay, let's analyze, what am I doing that's not quite fitting well? Is there something within my diet? Am I moving the right way? How do I feel? What am I going through? And then establish a routine. So a lot of times we can go ahead and trick our brains into doing a lot of different things on our behalf. Again, that comes up a lot in The Power of Habits. That is a Charles Duhigg book compared to Atomic Habits, which is a James Clear book. Both of those ones do speak to developing habits, developing routines. And what we're really looking to do is to identify a cue. So basically, this event happens, and then that's going to go ahead and spark some interest within us that we're going to go ahead and react to said thing, and then recognize the reward that we get out of it. So again, we see something that kind of triggers us to do something, and then we go ahead and internalize that, and then we create a response, and then we get a reward for it. So in the book, I thought it was really funny, The Power of Habits. They speak about toothpaste. And what was really interesting about the toothpaste is that I think it was like Pepsodent. And what was happening is when people would brush their teeth, uh, the abrasiveness within the toothpaste would actually kind of scuff up the mouth a little bit. And that feeling of slightly scuffed up became rather pleasant for people. And it kind of gave them this reassurance that the job was done. So what it ended up doing is people started to go back and using Pepsodent over and over and over again because it gave this feeling that made them think that they were cleaner. Now all they're doing is kind of ripping up their mouth a little bit. Doesn't make it better or worse. But again, it built a regular cleaning routine for those people, and it helped them to buy that product repeatedly. So the things that you go out and purchase, you do those out of habit a lot of times too. I go buy roughly the same things from the grocery store every week, plus or minus one or two things because I want to go ahead and develop a recipe. And then from there, it's just setting standards. So even this morning, when I was working with the people at the Circuit Syndicate class this morning, uh, there's a fair amount of runners. And I asked them, I go, what's the hardest part about running? And they would go ahead and say, like, starting. And I go, that's a fantastic answer. I want to get you a little bit more specific. The correct answer I was looking for is two things: putting your shoes on and stepping outside the door. Once you do those things, you will probably start running, right? So it's not so much the act of running itself. It's not being at the gym doing the work. It's getting to the gym is the hard part. That's the thing people will miss out on because we will give ourselves a ton of excuses. So we are very irrational beings. So based on the books from Robert Greene and the laws of human nature, law one, humans are irrational, and we will rationalize anything. I can go ahead and go on for millennia, if allotted, to defend myself on some things, even if they don't make sense to anybody else. I could probably argue to the end of time about it if I really, really wanted to, but that's what we're built into. Right. So we're already kind of making some of these habit choices as is. So we're going to be rather consistent. So once we start to do things like establish a routine. So if I know it's even like the story of Pavlov's dogs. When you ring the bell, their mouth starts to salivate. We can trick our own brains into doing other functions as such that are really beneficial to us. Right. And finding that consistency to show up rain or shine every day. Ding, the bell rings, it's time to start. Right. That's how we listen for it. If, whether it's sports, it'll be the whistle. We go on the whistle, we stop on the whistle. Right. So we start to develop these other things. Then we go ahead and start to embrace the process. So it's not so much of getting to the goal. That's why I don't like to sit here and talk about people like gaining or losing weight a whole lot, because if that's just the end all be all, again, for the 30th time here, if people want to lose weight, get a hacksaw, start hacking away at your legs and your arms. You will weigh whatever the hell you want, but it won't make your life better. So it's about finding the journey and really enjoying the process of doing it. Now, I'm running because I want to get better at it. I think running is a very human function. That is one of the things that we as humans have become really good at. Again, our ability to chase things down in nature, right? Our ability to sweat, to stay upright, to kind of have these advantages. So again, we're not going to be the fastest creature on the planet, but we actually have some of the best endurance on the planet. And now we live in such a society that it's not necessary to do that anymore. So it's not to go ahead that I'm trying to run and catch prey or run away from predators. The idea is like I find it very human to go ahead and run, and I want to enjoy the process. I think it's really hard for myself to be angry when I'm tired. So if I actively go out there and push myself a bit more, I can start to find better things for myself to improve my thought processes and give myself a clearer head to think from. Because over the last month, I've been incredibly frustrated with somebody around me, um, who is not helping. And there's not much I can do about it because they suck. So I need to go ahead and make sure that I have proper outlets to make sure I can handle these things, or I will find myself just thinking about those things consistently. And that is not how I want to live. So I need to go ahead and give myself something better to spend my time on and getting myself into the actions and repetition and just autopilot on some things. So when people go ahead and say, like, hey, do you even know what day it is anymore? Because I'll say, like, I have no concept of it. I can tell you what day of the week. I can tell you Saturday through Sunday. I can tell you what day of the week it is. I don't care about what number it is. I wake up, my Sundays all look the same. My Mondays all look the same. My Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, all week basically looks the same. And to go ahead and prove that to you, I will go ahead and spell out exactly what my weeks look like now. On Sunday, it's soccer. Basically, from 9 until 5, I am at soccer, right? I come home, and either actually when that's over, I'll either stop at the bar for a drink because it's been a very long day. Again, I need to work on that. And if I feel all right, I will go work out and I will go to bed. And then on Monday morning when I wake up, I am up at 4 a.m. I am at the studio about 4:45. I teach my 5 o'clock class. I teach a 6 o'clock class, and then I go to work. So I stop at home, I shower up, and then I go to work. I'm at work until about 5. I come home, I exercise or I run. I go to bed. I wake up the next day. I work with my virtual client 6 a.m. So 6 a.m. Boom, I'm right back on. From there, morning ritual stuff to go ahead and get it done, and I go to work. From work, I go directly from work to the studio to go teach a 6:30 and an 8 o'clock class. I prep that room that night before to make sure that the class is ready for when I walk in the morning. And on Wednesday, I wake up 4 a.m. I'm at the studio by 4:45. I'm teaching a 5 o'clock class, a 6 o'clock class, a 7 o'clock class, and then I'm working remote most of the time. So usually I get to head home, which is nice. Right? I really like to be able to work from home. I can get things like meal prepping done. I can get my laundry done. So these are the things that normally get done during this day. I can run to the grocery store really quick. Again, this is all my regular stuff that I do. Right? It's hard to beat what I'm going to do every single day. There's not a question of what I need to go do. I just know I need to go execute. On Thursday, I'm with my virtual client again at 6 a.m. Alternating weeks for Thursday, I'm either in the office or at home, right? So that's all still the same work. And then I will end up going to a mobility class at 8 o'clock. So I go ahead and I teach that one to, again, prep the room for Friday morning. I wake up Friday, 4 a.m. I'm in the studio by 4:45. I teach a 5 and a 6. And most of the time I'm working remote that day. So I'll stick around for a few minutes, make sure the studio's in good hands as we kind of, shift into the next shift. And then I will go and work until about 5, 6 o'clock. And then this is where I have a little bit of time, right? So I can work on something else. So I will get that done. And then basically I get a little bit of time to myself. So maybe I'll watch a movie, maybe I'll relax for a little bit. And then on Saturdays, I wake up, I teach 2 classes. So I have an 8:30, like an 8:30 and like a 9:30 essentially. Um, yeah, that sounds about right. An 8:30 and a 9:30. It's been a little wonky, so we're getting into the groove of that one. And then I teach barbell club from like 10 to 2, 11 to 3. So that's just going to keep going as well. And then on the rest of Saturday, I'll either try to run and then I get a little bit of downtime. So the other things of my life can go ahead and get taken care of. So again, I am consistent with my days. I've given you everything that I'm doing. I'm not hard to find, and I don't really intend to be hard to find. Excuse me. Then on top of that, I've built additional consistency things. Every Monday, I try to release a workout. Every Tuesday, I try to release an article. Every Wednesday, I try to release a podcast. Every Thursday, I try to release a recipe. And every Friday, I try to promote somebody else. Saturdays for me, Sundays for the intention. So on Saturday, the intention goes up. On Sunday, I'll go ahead and post about it. So again, every single time, it's always the same stuff. I just take the next step, take the next step, take the next step. Because again, if I continue to do those things, I will get really good at them. If I continue to build a workout that I then submit online every single week, I'm going to get better at building workouts. I have 52 chances a year, right? I have 52 articles, 52 podcasts, 52 recipes, and then 52 other people or other businesses to go ahead and promote, 52 intentions, right? So every time that I come back and try again, I'm going to get better at it. So it's not skydiving once and taking that experience. I'm trying to skydive 1,000 times to experience every possible outcome so I can ensure that I make the right choices. And then as I go through this life, I need to again practice self compassion that I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to burn out at some points. And I need to take some time to recognize that as well. So, about once a quarter, I'll take a mental health day or two. And honestly, I will not get out of bed. There, I don't care what's going on. I will just stay in bed all day. It's about once a quarter. Again, it's just my ability to go ahead. Am I on the right track? Am I monitoring my health well? How do I feel within my body? Am I getting enough rest? Am I catching up on the other things that I want to get caught up on? Or sometimes I just want to go ahead and sleep because waking up at 4 a.m. every single day, kind of wears on you for a little bit. So I try to use that as much as I can to improve myself. Now, when you go ahead and get yourself to consistently show up to something very, very important every single day, I promise you, you will improve. You might not see improvement every single day. I think there's this adage out there where, when you start exercising, the first like 2 to 4 weeks, you won't see any changes. Weeks 6 to 8, other people start to see the change in you. And about 8 to 10 weeks, you start to see the change in yourself. Now, it might take 3, 4 months to be able to see any significant difference in yourself, but then you'll be able to start seeing it. But you need to be consistent with it. And I don't care if it's something that has to do with fitness. I don't care if it has to do with you writing or reading or doing art. Find the things that are incredibly like passionate within your life and spend more time doing it. And if you can't find time for it, you need to make time for it, or it's not going to get better. Uh, Last one, and then we'll let everybody get out of this one. Um, I think about this one a lot. If you don't have time to meditate for 5 minutes, you should meditate for an hour and give yourself really something to think about. If you can't give 5 seconds to go ahead and let your brain just process and run and relax, you probably should do it longer to ensure you're heading in the right direction for yourself and doing the right things. So, on that note, I just want to go ahead and share all of that because it's really hard to defeat someone who consistently shows up. And on that note, good luck.